Welcome learners. In this section, we're going to talk about how we will be creating the UI for our to-do app. We're going to ensure that the producer consumer thing, also the different UI components that goes behind creating a to-do app gets used. Well, this entire app is going to have standard validations. Also, we're going to follow state management principles which will involve the producer consumer problem to get resolved. In fact, more in details about the consumer problem or wherein there is going to be an overwhelming production of data and overwhelming consumption of data, all shall be handled but in due course while you watch the video. So stay tuned and keep following.
In this session, I'm going to begin with my display task screen. Let me put class display task screen extends state less widget. I'm going to take the missing override, put over here return scaffold, and then I'm going to remove this sample welcome text and move to display task screen. Now over here in the body, in the center of the screen, I'll just put a simple text display task screen, and then I'll try to run my app. Well, this displays the simple text onto the center of the screen. What I'm going to keep in my mind is the diagram which I made during the blueprint. Over here, I'm going to make just this simple screen and put an app bar and this plus icon. Heading over to my scaffold, I'll put the app bar, title, text, wherein I'll say display tasks, followed by a floating action button wherein I'm going to have one icon to the bottom right corner which will be having the plus symbol. Well, that's called as a floating action button, and I'll be having this on press followed by a child wherein I'm going to display icons dot add. Let me now do a hot reload and check how does it appear on my UI. Well, that's my app bar and this is a floating action button. Now you can try and play along to increase the size and then check if that suits according to your needs. Followed by, in the screens, I'm going to create add task screen. Now I accidentally added the letter S. In fact, it's going to add only one task. Let me limit it to add task screen. Followed by, now class add task screen is going to extend the stateless widget. In this, over here at the center part of the screen, I'll be having an input box which will allow you to type in your task description and then click on the add task button. So I'll put over here scaffold followed by my column and then the text form field and one filled button So the filled button shall have an onPress function and a caption on the button as add task. Well, what I'm going to do is, when you click on this plus icon, I'm going to do navigator.push material page route and then mention the stream which I shall be heading towards. I'm going to click on the plus symbol and it shows a blank underline followed by the add task. Well, that's because we did not give any decoration to our input field. Now, let's go to the main axis alignment. Make this column go to the center and then have the app bar which says that we have to add new task. On hot reload, we should be able to see these small changes. Do you notice this underline and this button kind of sticking to each other? I'll put one sized box with a height of, let's say, 20 pixels, and then I see a 20 pixel gap in between them, followed by, on the left and right, I'm going to put a padding. For that, I'm using this padding widget in which only left 10 pixels, or let me put 20 pixels, right 20 pixels. I'm going to put my column. Hence, you'll notice the underline now doesn't stick to the right and the left edges. In fact, it kind of has got a spacing in between it. Let me now walk you through the rounded borders decoration. So I'll put over here decoration attribute followed by input decoration. Let's have focus border, wherein I'm going to see outline input border. Once the field gets a focus, I'm going to put the border as blue color, and let's see if I now try to do a hot reload. Do you notice there's a very faint blue color around the border? Well, let me change this to green and then also increase the thickness to 2. Well, this time it's bit more visible as I've put a darker shade as well as increased the thickness. Now, let me cover all the attributes that I can set to my input field. One is the focus border, followed by something called as enabled border, wherein I'm going to set the black color. Well, what is the difference? Let me run the app from the very beginning. And it says hot restart. I'm going to click on the plus symbol. Do you notice the outer edges are black? When I click on this, you get to have that green color. That's because you get a focus on it. Now you can try also putting a border radius dot circular as 10. and you'll notice that this has got a bit amount of smooth edges. I really like this smooth edges, so I'll be adding this attribute even in the enabled border. Now let me collapse both of them and then put this inside a form widget. Now imagine this scenario wherein we right now have this one field. Let's say someone is trying to put a blank task description. Well, there cannot be a case where your task can be set idle and do absolutely nothing. Well, in that case, if you have anything in your mind, you can just try to tap it down, put it as my mindfulness time, and still that would be counted as a task. Well, in this case, our user is absolutely absurd because he intends to put a blank task. In that case, we are going to shout back at him and we'll see in deep red color. Let me pick the font color to be slightest of the red. Invalid task description. Let me extend this. Yeah. So this red color text will shout at our user saying that you just cannot enter a blank task into our database. Now, in order to do so, I'm going to teach to you the concept of global key. Over here, I'm going to put form state. Well, right now I'm teaching you this with one input field. You can extend the number of fields to a registration form wherein you typically would have name, phone number, what address, and what could be the other things like what are the hobbies, what could be the address line to, etc. And wherever you would want to throw an error, you can use this concept of keys. So this is something called as a form key. Now let's wrap this column, cut it and put it inside something called as a form widget. Now the form has got a key and the entire column as a child. What benefit do we get? A key helps to identify this input field uniquely. Well, in this case, let me show you the benefit of it. I'm going to put over here an if condition. If the form key dot current state is not equal to null and the form key is validated, then insert the task. What do you mean? Well, let me now show to you one of the key attributes on which text form field is used. I'll put over here validator, string input, and I'll see if input is not equal to null and input is not empty, return null. But in a case where my user is going to keep the input empty, I'm going to shout back at him invalid task description. Let's try doing a hot reload and checking whether this thing is going to come or not. Look over here, I don't have absolutely anything into my text box and I'm going to click add task. Do you notice that red color task that comes over and shouts at my user, saying him to enter some task description? But wait, there's also a bug in my code. Did you notice as soon as I pressed this add task button, the entire UI got dismantled and the entire outer edges went out? Well, let me fix it very quickly. I'm going to put error border. I'll put over here a red color and one more time, just duplicate, keep over here focused error border and then do a hot restart. This time I'm going to repeat the steps. Add task. Did you notice the entire outline input border stayed as it is? Now when I click inside it, you also see the red color to be there, which if I put some task description and click on the task button, the red color goes away. Well, that's because this time the form is valid and hence this validator is returning null, which indicates no error. Had it been a case where your validator had been null or your input had been null, then this error would have been displayed and you can try to play along with the color. For example, what should be the focus color? Let's say over here you put, let me just take a different color for distinguishing, like purple. In that case, what you're going to notice, when I click on it, it shows red, and when the error is displayed, I tap inside it, it turns purple. You can have all the rainbow colors added into it, provided your theme of the app is not decided. Let me change it back to red and then continue with the development of our app into our part 2 for the series.
Just creating the UI is not going to help you out in understanding the entire to-do app. So in order to simplify the things, I have broken down the list operations into the next tutorial, wherein I'm going to discuss what things go behind adding an item into the list, what things go behind in retrieving the value from a list, and also keeping a listener. Let's say you have a new task getting added. How can this new task get listened and automatically update on the display task pane is going to be an intriguing topic. Well, I'm going to uncover all of that, but for that you need to stay tuned and keep learning with open minds.